So I think I need to probably apologize first, because in looking at the earlier presentations, I'm realizing like you guys are way smarter than I am, and I realize I'm probably more in like the ABD world. I typically present in those types of places more to like us business folks. So this is going to be like, I don't know if there's any code in here. I won't be jumping in and doing any demos. So sorry about that. With that as an amazing setup, for me, like I'm looking at like applied artificial intelligence and like how we get stuff out of it, and it's like how can we actually make and do with it. And it's funny for me when I look into this, and like this I just pulled like just a couple days ago. This is like on the PwC. It's like, man, like the promise of artificial intelligence, like it's such a massive thing. Like it's, according to them, it's 15, oh, not even the zeros even fit in PowerPoint. So there's like $15 trillion. Like I'm not, like that's literally their number. $15 trillion of value in artificial intelligence. It's amazing, right? So when you Google AI overpromising and under-delivering, there's like 22 million results, right? Because it's like there's all of this hype, and not actually like we're not doing anything like really with it. And I mean, I'm sure there's some spaces where it's like doing great work, but generally in business, there's certainly a lot of opportunity to actually like take things from theory and cool project and go make a better decision. And by comparison, it's like 22 million results for overpromising and under-delivering is like 10 times as many as RXA, which is my company. So like we are that small compared to that search. So the point being, when we think of AI and applied artificial intelligence solutions, there's just so many different cool, great, amazing things that can be done, are being done, but it's really about getting down to like, help me make a better decision. If I'm a business person, help me make a better decision, help me spend more efficiently, help me maximize ROI. So RXA, that's my company, and that's what we think about when we're going to market, is trying to help businesses like actually make a better decision. We may not have the best model, we may not be the fastest, terabytes of processing in milliseconds, but we're trying to get the results of all this work into the hands of somebody who's trying to make a decision. We are still a startup, so we've been around since 2016, and our approach is a mix of pre-built technology and analytics consulting. So I'll save you kind of the whole speech about who we are. So that's me and my co-founder, John. We've been working in data science for like 20 years now, each of us. We got started in kind of the late 90s. And we've, you can read our resumes later. RXA works with lots of different clients. We're a startup, but we're sort of legit. So that's my proof slide. We've got some partnerships too. Domo, that's like our big partner. They named us Innovative Partner of the Year. If you guys don't know who Domo is, they're like a Tableau or a Click, except way better. And we're also part of Ann Arbor Spark. So you guys, has everybody heard of Spark in Ann Arbor? So certainly if you guys are looking to start a business, start there. They have been tremendously helpful to me. We love Spark, and they're like seriously amazing. So that's our headquarters, are right at Spark Central at Liberty and Division. So speaking of startups, just the lessons, the key things about being a startup you learn is like being able to stay focused, find that one thing. Really good advice, you'll see this everywhere. So making sure you stay focused, and having one thing. So with that, these are the 4 one things that RXA does. So it's my startup, and so because of that, I'm like, I want to solve all the problems in the world. And a year ago, this had like 12 things, so we are getting better. But to give you an idea of the places that we work, we do a lot of customer experience AI, so looking at voice of customer, bringing in survey data and social listening and doing like lots of NLP, text analytics and stuff. We do a lot of media and multi-touch attribution modeling and media mix modeling. Most of it specifically designed around helping car dealers be more efficient with their spend. So that actually is an area that we're getting focused. Workforce optimization, and this is, my case study today, I'm gonna walk you through like how we do this for Bell Tire, and we do have a labor optimization platform we put in place for them. So we'll talk about that. And then we also do a ton of consulting. So there's no shortage of work in the data science consulting field today, and we are happily playing in that space. So everything we do is very open. We work with all the different platforms, and we are about trying to meet our customers where they are. So I swear this is like totally sounding like an ad, not my intention. So this is what I'm here to talk about today. So I'm gonna walk through our process for actually creating actionable artificial intelligence. So this is definitely more on like the business side of the house. So like, how can we actually work with a customer and help them use, really great, cool AI tech and get it into the hands of the decision makers. So I'm gonna walk through these 5 steps. And then I'm gonna kind of spend just a second or two or minute or two on each one. And we've got a template actually too that I'd be happy to share with you guys. If you guys want it, just send me connect with me. My email will come up at some point here. But just sort of like checklist of things that we walk every engagement through to make sure we hit on all these things. So I'm gonna walk through, slide on each of these, and then I'll walk through the case study with Bell Tire and how we actually use their process. And then, big surprise, they got great results. Because I probably wouldn't have picked it if they didn't. You guys with me so far? Sound good? Okay, all right. So first step to discover. So whenever we start working with a customer, or a prospect really, we gotta spend some time up front understanding the decision-making process. So who are my actual customers, right? Like, what are the actual decisions that are being made and need to be made today? And this is something that, I don't know if I can still call myself a data scientist because you guys it's like so far beyond me. But like, when I get into start working with someone, I just immediately jump into, oh, look at all this great data. Oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do that. And I start kind of like solving the problem with the data that I see that I have available, right? And I just want to jump in and start playing with it because this is really fun. But if I want to get paid for my work, it's important that I think about, okay, you're a marketer. Like, you have a media budget to spend and you have customers you need to deliver to your business, right? Like, how does that work? Like, how does that actually work? Or like, in the case of Bell Tire, these are store managers. They have to get people physically in the store to change tires on Tuesdays at 8:30 in the morning. Like, how does that work? Like, what are the mechanisms and processes in place that make that happen? And so it's important for us, like, starting to understand how the decision-making process works and what are the actual business objectives of the project. And this is for me, working in business, like as a quick aside, the first, so I've been working now, like I said, for like 20 years. I've been doing this in this space, and I've spent time as like a kind of lone wolf in the corner doing my thing, and I've managed teams of all different sizes. And still, the first person I ever had to fire couldn't get their head around like, someone's got to actually use this stuff, right? So there's a brilliant PhD level statistician. So I'm only a master's level, so like they were like way ahead of me. But we were selling data science services to customers, and they were stuck in this loop of everything needs to be a certain way in order to get this done. It has to follow these procedures, and you can't make these assumptions and that. And it's really at the end of the day, like, there's a person out there making a decision who we're going to help them make it better. It may not be perfect, right? And there can be things to go and grow and learn, but like we're gonna get them and we're gonna make them smarter, and today they're gonna be better than they were yesterday, and so on. So it's kind of making sure you're aligned with that. This next step, it is incredible to see how often it is missed by everyone. And it's this documentation step. So taking the time to actually write down everything we learned in discovery and everything we learn as we actually put it together. So making sure we actually document and like take the time to write down what the business objective is. Often just getting it on paper causes arguments with our customers. So if we hear something and we write down what we heard, they're like, well, no, that's not what I meant. Or someone in a room, we may be doing this. Typically we do these types of sessions like over like a 1 to 4 hour kind of get together. And you'll see that you'll have people that, oh yeah, we're all aligned. We all know what we're doing here. We know what the objectives are. But when we go to write it down, it's like we took what, what like Mike says, and then Jennifer's like, yeah, no, like that's not what I said. I said this. And then it ends up like that force of documenting what the actual objective is makes a big difference. So like we work with an energy company here in Michigan, and we went through this process with them somewhat recently. And it's interesting, seeing a room of like 12 folks who all work for the same company, who all have the same objective, like listening to them describe the same thing differently and feel like it's the same thing, but then when it comes to like, no, we have like one blank, what is it? And then watching all the discussion that actually has to take place to say, oh yeah, the actual objective is like, we don't want to have to open a new plant. That's there's all these little things that we like to think about and fit in that maybe just more like measures and tactic and thing, but like writing it down. This step two, the documentation phase, is something that we want to make sure we've got good documentation around the data sources, like getting very detailed here so we have stuff that's scalable, right? So when we're doing this, we have the pleasure of being able to just kind of like parachute into client after client, right? And we come in and it's like great, exciting times, and 99 times out of 100, there's no documentation. It's like in someone's head, or it's like across like 4 different people, and then it's like, oh yeah, here's this data dictionary, but, and then it's usually missing something, or it was written by somebody who's no longer there, and you open it up and like, or I guess I should say, the worst thing is when you show up and say, yeah, great, here's all of our documentation, this person wrote it, but they're no longer with us, but they documented everything and they hand it over, and in their minds, everything's all laid out beautifully, and then we open it up, and it's just like a bag of crap, right? It's like missing stuff, it's like things are just incomplete. So this step, we've found like getting that documentation in place, like writing it all down, sharing it back with the customers, making sure that everybody has like good visibility, like really lends to scalable analytics, right? Because we're not just trying to do like one-off project. It's like, let's get in, help a team, whether we're gonna be there for the next round or not, like making sure we've got it documented. I spend too much time on documentation, but document stuff. And then the success criteria too. Very important to write that down up front. Because as you guys know, when you do these projects, you get to kind of what could be the end, and you're looking back, and then you can kind of really create any story you want in terms of like, well, this worked because, and I'm gonna fill in the blank now because I have all the benefit of history of what I've actually done. And so we like to set it up front, like, what does success of this look like? So if I'm working with, we're working with a retailer and we're talking to them right now, we're at this step of defining success of the program, and it's, we want to predict, and they called me out on this. Like I gave them the proposal. This was just yesterday morning, and it was like, we're going to predict unplanned overtime for each of your there's like subset, like 450 locations, right? So I'm gonna show you ahead of time, like these stores are gonna have unplanned overtime. And, or I just say, we're gonna be able to predict unplanned. And the guy's like, well, what does that mean? Like how many, what percent, how accurate? And I was like, oh yeah, you got me. So like, we gotta sit down, like be specific, right? Like let's define what that success is up front. So we're gonna march through. And at the end, be able to look back and say, here's what we said we're gonna do, here's what we did, and have it be as black and white as possible. Assessing So this is like when you've done that work, you've done your discovery work, you've started to document where things are. Obviously, this is where we start to play, right? So get in there, looking at the data, finding those, initial relationships, looking for things that are interesting. This is oftentimes the place where we like to find cool new things that we didn't think about that we could do, and then we start to add them to the list, and then we end up, instead of marching down the path that we've defined, we come up with, oh, I could do this, or oh, look at that thing. And because again, this is really fun, like this whole data science field, it's exploratory work. And so for this, we want to identify those new things and document them as sort of like, hey, we're going to do this next. We don't want to add a whole lot to the list in this phase, right? We want to go into this to get through this and then think about starting a new initiative after we've completed the success criteria of the last one. You don't want to end up with like 30 projects that are 20% done. It's better to have one project 100% than a whole lot that are like really smart, but just getting started. Then we go through the modeling phase. So this is where probably you guys would be better equipped to even explain what goes on here, but this is where we're gonna actually layer up models. Testing, validation, training. This is obviously this is where the bulk of the real work takes place, right? This is things that can take days, weeks, months to get through. Then implementing it. So, I'm not like trying to gloss over this. This is like the real reason we're here, very important. But I feel like you guys probably know what goes on here way better than I do actually. So, this though, the implementation part. So, being able to translate all this cool data science stuff into the decision maker's hands, right? So if you come up with something really incredible and amazing that nobody understands what it is, it doesn't matter. So this is about empowering those decision makers to actually like make these decisions. And what kills me is when we see folks out there doing amazing data science work and then the presentation of it back to the consumer looks like a PhD thesis, and it's like, I changed tires for a living. This is like, what do you want me to do with this, right? Like, these are really bright people who actually are really intelligent in their world, but their world is very different than our world. So making sure that we figure out like, okay, they need something on their phone that tells them to do this, or they need to understand like here, like seeing, pictures, like here's the relationship between these things, or, even better, like I mentioned, we use this platform called Domo for a lot of our customers. And one of the nice features in there is you can set up like text message alerts. So I can go and set in all the parameters and things. And so if I've got a customer who's responsible for, say, like, a sales volume or something, and I'm doing forecasting and, hey, we're going to hit plan or not, like, you can let them what's called manage by exception, right? So I'm not sending them a daily or hourly report of like, here's what's going on, read me. It's more, when there's a problem, I get text on my phone that says, hey, look at this. Right, so it's understanding like where your decision, and to be honest too, like so we use that. So I run RxA off of. Oh, good, Tim. All right, so it's going by so fast. So I manage RxA by exception. So like I set some thresholds and things, and so when like our cash flow has forecasted changes of a certain percentage, I get a text on my phone. So I don't need to look at my cash report every day. It just like I get a beep here. I'm gonna go look at it. I do look at my cash report every day too, though, but that's just because I have problems. So I'm gonna walk through. Is that making sense so far? That process? Okay. So I'm gonna walk through our case study that basically just walks through each of those steps, how we did them, and then what we got. So this should take way less than 10 minutes, so we should have plenty of time. So discovery, so we went in, we met with them, sat in a conference room at first, a couple of days of that, sitting with, so first we met with like their CMO actually led this initiative, and then we met with their president, and then a bunch of regional people, and then we talked to a couple of store managers, and then we said, hey, let's get out and actually see the stores. So we went and toured a bunch of stores to actually see the process, right? Because they're like, hey, the premise of this was the leadership at Bell Tire was like, hey, we could be smarter. We want to use artificial intelligence. Can you guys come and help us figure out where we should apply it and what we could get out of it, right? So it was just sort of like, hey, let's learn the business. And it started to very quickly center around, hey, we're spending too much in hourly labor. What can we do there, right? So we get out there, we look at it. You start to see things like, well, each store has 10 bays. Okay, so even if you have, 1,000 customers lining up, you're only getting through 10 at a time. So there's some constraints to think about, right? And they can't just add 5 bays to a store Tuesday and then take them away Wednesday, right? There's some physical things to think about. But then there's, things that are variable. So we get there, we see them actually doing their work, talk to the managers, right? So we're out there actually talking to these folks. This is like basic consulting 101. We heard things, like, hey, I was burned by this promotion last year. I'm not going to get caught again. And so these managers are thinking like, I got to have more people because I don't want customers waiting. Because when customers are waiting, I get yelled at and I don't want to get yelled at. And so it's like, got it. Okay, so you want to make sure you're not getting yelled at and you're concerned because you guys have this great promotion that when you run this promotion, you get a lot of customers. However, last year, there's things that went on last year that you're not remembering. You're just remembering the pain, right? So this is where the AI comes in because we're going to be able to look at 60, 70, 80 different things at once, not just that one running promotion, not running promotion variable. So we get through that, we start documenting things. So we're able to put pretty succinctly, the business initiative is to reduce bottom line expenses. And the problem was employees are on the clock and they're underutilized. So you got folks standing around. We're gonna measure this with hourly labor utilization. And the business outcome is we're gonna reduce labor expense, right? So it's a pretty clear problem, what we're gonna do, very measurable. So during the assess phase, we looked at, okay, what can we look at? Like what are store attributes? What's all this data that we have available? Bringing time clock data, order track data. So we started getting into this, bringing things in, exploring, thinking, playing, and you realize like, hey, there's other stuff that matters to their business, right? Like Bell Tire loves it when the weather's bad. They love it when it's sleety because it creates these little gifts for Bell Tire, right? So these suck for us, but it's like, man, these are great for business, right? So people need new rims all of a sudden because the temperature dropped and it was right. So think about, okay, how do we control for that? And where's our data sources? So this is like where we've, you got sources and ways to bring in all of this, and there's economic factors too, like all sorts of other things. So now we're kind of in that play phase, right? We come out of it with some summary things. It's like, well, we were able to find like almost half their shifts aren't properly staffed, and a third of them are overstaffed. So it's interesting, we found like, we went into it thinking like, hey, there's all this overstaffing going on. And then we got into it and it's like, oh, there's definitely overstaffing going on. There's also understaffing going on. So like, it's not just about like cutting the costs here, let's reallocate and generate more revenue here. So we're not just going into it with the blinders of only doing one thing, but we're staying within that sphere of like increasing utilization, right? So if we can get people on the clock and working, that's also a great thing. We did, some modeling. So this is a little bit of what we ended up doing. So distributed random forest. These are the, if my co-founder John was here, he could explain to you all of this way better than I can. I really just play this data scientist on TV now. So it works though, and be happy to talk you through this process in more detail offline, but we only have 5 minutes left, darn. So I'm gonna skip ahead. Implementation, so this again, when we think about like how we actually like get the rewards of all of this work. So these store managers are used to looking at email, right? So it's like, I have all these like amazing like data visualization platforms, like we have access to, like, whether like, and we have our own that we built, but giving them another system to log into and keep track of, like that didn't work. So what we ended up realizing, we got that through feedback, what we ended up realizing was, okay, well, they read emails, so we're gonna send them an email every Monday morning with, here's the schedule that you need for the following week, because they're putting their schedules in on Thursdays, so we get this to them Monday. They see it in their inbox, and they can use this. They can take this, and they can just feed it right into their scheduling system, and they're done. It also gives them, there's some other nuances as to why we did it this way, but basically it's meeting them where they're used to consuming information and when they need it, and no one complained, and everyone has it, right? Yeah, big surprise, it worked. So the managers are super happy. It took a while to get full adoption because this was a change to the system, right? So we're trying to get store managers to behave differently, and it took months of close to a year, really, from the time of first piloting to going full live. They're full live now, and they've been running it full since, I think, January is when I would say we really got full adoption. And it also saved 14% hourly labor costs, so which is massive for this type of an exercise. So super happy with that, and I think with like 3 minutes to spare, I have time for questions, if you have any.